When is the part 2 for the Transcendent Dokkan campaign happening? And who might we expect? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We got another Dokkan Battle video for you here today. We are finally back from our vacation in San Francisco, and just in time for the lead up to the part 2 for this year's Transcendent Dokkan campaign. So in this video, we're going to break down what characters we can expect to see and when we can expect to see it during this part 2 of this campaign. So let's go ahead and get started with the thing we are all concerned about. When is this happening? Well, first off, in order to figure that out, there's a couple places we can look, right? Looking back at previous Tanabata celebration is going to give us one of the closer ideas of what to expect, right? So if we take a look, we'll look at, since we're back in the June celebration, we'll look at the original Tanabata timeframe. So looking on the JP side, right, the last time we had a Tanabata celebration was the Tech UI Goku, who released on the 27th of June, the last little bit of June there. Then, all right, his part 2 released on the 17th of July. So more or less 20 days from the start, right, of the campaign came the part 2. Now, the only issue with that is that hasn't always been relatively consistent. It's been different every year, right? So if we go, right, what is this, 2024, right? So the exact amount of time here in this year was, what is it? Okay, we got 30 days in June, so 3 days there, plus 17, 20 days. Yeah, so 20 days there for Jiren. All right, then we look at Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku from the year prior to that, 29 June, with the part 2 release on the 19th. So again, 20 days-ish. So with that said, things changed once we switched the campaign, though, to the previous year, right? When we look at the Gogeta, right, he dropped on the 28th of the month, and then part 2 Broly dropped on the 29th. This is closer to a 15-day gap. Now, you might be wondering, well, why such a different gap? Well, I think the major reason is the introduction of the Dokkan Day special campaign. Right now, starting from 10th anniversary, every 14th and 1st of the month, or 29th of the month, the 30th of the month, depending on where you're at, right? It'll be the 29th or the 30th, or the 14th or 15th, depending on where you're at. They want to try to line these banner releases up with this, so they're not going to be too far off. So this year's campaign, if it were to follow previous trends, isn't going to work because it's going to miss the Dokkan Day special campaign. Now, last year, this was a bigger deal because they were releasing tickets alongside that. They haven't been doing that this year, but I do think they'll still try to follow the banner release schedule, which does line up with a few other things we have. So if we look at Tech Beast for this year, who released on the 26th, when we look at the campaign, we can actually see that there is some stuff lining up that this will be closer to a 15-day gap, much like the previous Tanabata celebrations, or last year's celebration rather, right? And the main giveaway for that actually comes from the sales. So let's actually pull the previous sales up real quick. So if we actually look at the previous sales here, we can actually see that there is a stop on when the part 1 stuff ends. All right, the current sales, aside from the new special 77 Tanabata banner sales, right, the current sales are set to end on the 13th at 4:59 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time, and that kind of lines up with what we were thinking, right? Matching the Gogeta campaign, where this would be closer to a 14th or 15th release, placing it closer to that 20-day gap. Because if it goes with what people were thinking, where it was like a previous, almost the 19th or 20th release, that would be a huge gap between the ending of the sales and the next release, which they almost never do, right? The gap between sales is usually never more than 24 hours, if that sometimes. The other thing we can look at is, of course, the Elder Kai banner. Of course, this isn't always true, but the Elder Kai banner does usually follow the same as the sales, right? So with the Elder Kai banner ending on the 13th, the next one is likely to drop within 24 hours of that. This is pretty consistent. It hasn't changed. It rarely changed unless there's something really weird, like an extra release, for example, like with the God Vegeta. That was like the only time it was really messed up. So I think we can plan on the part 2 being somewhere around the 14th or 15th, depending on your time zone. This would line it up with Dokkan Day, which means you can get your Dokkan Day link levels in with the new units, as well as some extra stones before the banners drop. This would make a whole lot of sense, and this is typically how almost every banner prior to this has been running since year 10. So while we are back at the old Tanabata schedule following the likes of UI Goku and Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, it's still gonna probably be closer to the new standard that they've set since then. So then that begs the question, right? Well, on the 14th or 15th, that's just a few days away. Well, what can we expect? Well, today is the 9th, and if the plan is to drop on the, let's say, at the earliest, the 14th, right, that places us on a Tuesday release, if not by Wednesday, which means if they're going to do a teaser, they're probably going to do one tomorrow night, so within 24 hours of the release of this video, if they did not do it already. Maybe they do it after I record this later tonight. If so, I'll make an adjustment and put a pinned comment down. But I imagine if they're going to do it, they'll probably tease before the weekend. So tomorrow night, Friday night, we'll see reveals on Sunday evening, the 12th, and with the release on the 14th, data download on Monday, the 13th. That's pretty standard for this. I would expect tonight, if they intend to do a Dokkan live stream, to see that announcement tonight, if not by tomorrow night, if they intend to do one. But they could just do a teaser for the next one and call it that, right? I mean, I think Broly is probably the only time the Tanabata Part 2 got a full reveal, and I think that's only because it was lined up with the Community Day. Otherwise, Jiren and Omega Shenron, the previous Part 2 Tanabata LRs, didn't receive that kind of fanfare, so I don't imagine that. So, well, I mean, knowing that that is the possibility for when this can happen, well, who can we expect to see? Well, the obvious answer is Cellmax, right? Cellmax is the title screen card with Beast Gohan, and Tanabata almost always puts the two LRs for the celebration in the title screen, right? UI Goku versus Jiren, Baby versus Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Although actually, Baby wasn't actually in Super Saiyan 4 Goku's, right? Because we got Omega. Omega obviously wouldn't have been in that title screen because the focus was from the Baby arc. So never say never, right? It's not always a guarantee. And that leads me to believe that we could have one other possibility. While Cellmax is a great option, right? He's going to link well with some cards that are already pretty useful. Rose, and Zamos, the Zamos side of this. He's also going to link really well with any potential freezes we might get in the future. But we know for sure, since the Part 1 of the WFC LR's Easy Aid, these guys are probably, the Part 2s are probably going to Easy Aid too. So he'll be a new Cellmax would be a good link partner for the Fizz Metal Cooler. The only thing is, he's probably not going to have that great of a leader skill. He's probably going to be a 200%, 220% for movie bosses, if not artificial life forms. It's not going to be a great later skill because we have Metal Cooler, right? Tech Metal Cooler is going to be the better lead. So, I mean, don't anticipate much from his lead if we do get one. But to say the least, right, it wouldn't be a terrible option. He's probably not going to lean into his super bosses side of things, probably more so leading into just general movie bosses, because the super bosses category was kind of already built up during last GDC with the Rose. So we already know that that is out of the question for his leader skill, as well as his sort of design in the previous Cellmax was centered around using super bosses. So I imagine this one might be more centered around using movie bosses. But like I said, this is just of one possibility. The other possibility could be a standalone Orange Piccolo. Now, this would be a great option for the part 2 because we don't really need a Cell Max right now. We could EZA the Fizz Metal Cooler and Tech Metal Cooler's team be just fine, right? Movie Bosses is in a great place right now. We don't need Cell Max. Sure, he would be cool for a certain setup, but we don't need another Cell Max, especially when, I mean, there isn't much you can do except like a tag Magenta or revive Magenta into Cell Max, or maybe like a Gammas, maybe like a tag Gammas into Cell Max. I don't know. There isn't a whole lot you can do since they already gave us standalone Cell Max LR. So yeah, there's that issue there. But a standalone Orange Piccolo would work really well. We don't have a standalone Orange Piccolo. We only have the giant form and the one that is part of the active skill of the STR Piccolo and Gamma 2. So a standalone Orange Piccolo or even a transforming Power Awakening Piccolo into Orange Piccolo that isn't a giant form would honestly be pretty good. That would honestly be better for the part 2, just because, right, like Beast Team is not bad, but you can definitely feel it's missing something. It's like missing one more slot 1 character. Not that you can't make up with that with certain setups, but you could definitely feel like it's missing that. And the fact that Beast Gohan himself, where is he at here, has that whole Piccolo piece in his passive, right? Obviously the banner unit is, you know, helped by that, but a new standalone Orange Piccolo would benefit very greatly from that. So there is that possibility, and honestly I think it's better for the celebration and all to give this guy the part 2 over Cell Max, because like I said, Movie Boss is in a great place. You can easy a Fizz Metal Cooler and the team still is astronomically better for wear with or without the Cell Max. So honestly, I would think that this would be better, but you know, Dokkan will do what Dokkan will do. History stands that it will be a villain LR, so prep for that. But I just wanted to toss out my theory that Orange Piccolo is a possibility. So guys, that's it for the video. That is when we can expect the part 2. Expect an announcement for a live stream if there is going to be one tonight, if not by tomorrow night. Expect a teaser if there is going to be one by tomorrow night, if not by Saturday night, and reveals by Sunday with a release on the 14th or 15th. That's going to be the more likely scenario. I doubt we're going to be waiting all the way till the 21st, as that would be a very large gap between celebrations, and with the celebration ending on the 28th, that seems too long of a wait, and too little time for part 2. So guys, that's it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, let us know who would you like to see for a part 2 LR to this Transcendent and Dokkan campaign. Personally, I think Piccolo's the best choice, but I could ride with Cell Max, you know, but let us know what you want to see in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.